There are moments when preparation meets challenge in ways that defy expectation. When Bruce Lee, already building a reputation that would transcend his lifetime, found himself in a situation where philosophy would be tested not through demonstration, but through confrontation. When witnesses gathered, expecting evaluation, and instead observed something that would bind them to silence for decades. This was one of those moments. The invitation had been extended through professional channels, a private meeting, controlled environment. Industry figures are interested in Bruce's approach to combat choreography, his understanding of body mechanics, and his claims about efficiency overriding size. No cameras, no publicity. Just practitioners evaluating capability before potential collaboration. But something had shifted in the hours before the scheduled meeting. What began as professional curiosity had curdled into something else. Pride, perhaps. Or the need to prove that tradition still mattered. Those old methods held authority. That innovation, no matter how impressive on screen, couldn't replace decades of practical experience. The challenge, when it came, was delivered casually, almost conversationally. But everyone present understood its weight. According to later accounts, the film industry in the early 70s was transforming. Action sequences were changing. Fight choreography was evolving. Eastern techniques were infiltrating Western productions, creating tension between established stunt coordinators and newcomers who claimed superior methods. Bruce stood at the center of this cultural shift, his work drawing attention, his philosophy challenging conventions that had governed Hollywood combat for decades. The setting was a private training facility in Los Angeles, late afternoon, autumn light filtering through high windows. Bruce had been invited by a producer interested in his approach to screen combat. Legitimate interest. Professional opportunity. But word had spread through the stunt community, and others had arrived uninvited. Not to learn. To evaluate. To judge. Among them was a man witnesses would later describe only as the coordinator. His reputation preceded him. 23 years in the industry. Veteran of countless westerns, war films, and action pictures. He'd doubled for leading men, choreographed legendary sequences, and trained an entire generation of Hollywood stunt performers. His methods were classical, stage combat refined through repetition, safety emphasized above realism, spectacle prioritized over authenticity. He was 51 years old, 6 feet 2 inches. 215 pounds is maintained through disciplined training. Former college wrestler, former amateur boxer, a man who understood physical confrontation not theoretically but practically, whose body bore the accumulated evidence of 3 decades in demanding work. He'd watched Bruce's films with skepticism. Too fast, he'd told colleagues. Camera tricks, sped-up footage, wire work disguised through editing. The kicks looked impressive but lacked the grounded power of traditional Western fighting techniques. Pretty to watch. Impractical in reality. When Bruce entered the facility that afternoon, accompanied by a single student, the coordinator was already present. Waiting. Along with 6 other stunt performers, 2 cameramen who'd been told to leave their equipment in cases, and the producer who'd arranged the meeting. 12 people total. No one had planned this as a confrontation, but the energy in the room suggested otherwise. Professional introductions were made. Respectful. Cordial. Bruce demonstrated several techniques, explaining philosophy as he moved. Economy of motion. Directness. The elimination of unnecessary flourish. His student served as partner, absorbing strikes, falling correctly, resetting for each new demonstration. The coordinator watched with arms folded, expression neutral. When Bruce paused, the coordinator spoke. His tone was measured, not aggressive, simply direct. "Impressive for film work," he said. "Very clean. But I wonder about practical application, real resistance, real size differential." Bruce looked at him, calm. "Would you like to test that?" I think it would be educational, the coordinator replied. For everyone here. The producer attempted intervention. Gentlemen, this wasn't the purpose. Bruce raised a hand. It's fine. Professional inquiry deserves a professional answer. The space they cleared was approximately 20 feet square. Concrete floor. Adequate room for movement. The coordinator removed his jacket. Underneath, his shoulders were broad, developed through years of physical work. He rolled his neck. Old habit. Preparing. Bruce removed his shoes, stood barefoot on the concrete. The visual contrast was immediate. The coordinator's mass. Bruce's compact frame. The size difference seemed to predetermine the outcome to anyone unfamiliar with the nuances of biomechanics. One witness later recalled the silence. How conversation had ceased completely. How 12 people had somehow understood they were about to observe something significant, though none could have articulated what. Ready when you are, the coordinator said. Bruce nodded once. What happened next occurred across 17 seconds. Witnesses would argue afterward about the exact duration. Some claimed 15, the other 20. But multiple accounts converge around 17 seconds from initial movement to conclusion. The coordinator came forward, not rushing, moving with the controlled aggression of someone who'd spent decades training others in stage combat. His intention was clear. Close distance, use reach advantage, establish control through superior mass. A textbook approach. Sound strategy against smaller opponents. Bruce didn't retreat, didn't circle. He advanced at an angle, closing the distance faster than the coordinator anticipated. The coordinator's hands came up, reaching to grapple. This was his preferred range, where size mattered most. Bruce's lead hand moved. Not a punch, a probe. Touching the coordinator's extended arm, redirecting it slightly, creating an opening that existed for perhaps half a second. The coordinator felt his balance shift, minutely, enough to require adjustment. Before that adjustment could be completed, Bruce struck. Not with full power. This wasn't combat. This was a demonstration. But the precision was absolute. The coordinator's solar plexus, that dense cluster of nerves where the rib cage meets the diaphragm. The coordinator's breath was evacuated. Complete expulsion. His diaphragm contracted involuntarily, refusing to reset. His hands dropped from fighting position to his chest. Instinctive. Primal. The body's automatic response to respiratory compromise. He tried to inhale. Nothing. The nerves controlling his breathing had been temporarily overridden. Panic flickered across his face. Not fear of Bruce. Fear of suffocation. That ancient terror is hardwired into human neurology. His knees weakened. He dropped to one knee, then both. Kneeling on the concrete, mouth open, struggling to force air into lungs that wouldn't cooperate. Bruce stepped back immediately, giving space, watching carefully, ensuring the effect was temporary, as intended. 23 seconds after dropping to his knees, the coordinator's diaphragm released. Air rushed in. Ragged, desperate. Color returned to his face. He remained kneeling for another 10 seconds, breathing, processing. The facility stayed silent. 12 witnesses. No one spoke. No one moved. Bruce extended his hand. The coordinator looked at it, then took it. Bruce helped him to his feet. They stood facing each other. The coordinator's breathing was still labored. His expression was complex. Humiliation, respect, confusion, all present simultaneously. "Your technique is effective," he said finally, voice hoarse. Bruce inclined his head. "Thank you. I apologize for my skepticism." No apology necessary. Professional questions deserve professional answers. The coordinator retrieved his jacket, turned to the others. "What you saw stays here. This was a private demonstration. Professional courtesy. Nothing more. He looked at Bruce. I'd like to learn, if you're willing to teach. Bruce nodded. Of course. The meeting continued for another hour. Bruce demonstrated additional techniques, explained principles, answered questions. The atmosphere had transformed completely. What began as a challenge had become a genuine exchange. Professional respect replaces skepticism, but the encounter in those 17 seconds remained unaddressed. No one analyzed it. No one discussed it. The coordinator participated in the remainder of the session, asked intelligent questions, and took notes. But the moment when he'd been reduced to kneeling, unable to breathe, fighting panic while a smaller man watched calmly, that moment existed in a silence that felt deliberate. When the session concluded, the coordinator approached Bruce privately. I've trained fighters for 23 years, he said quietly. I thought I understood what worked. What you did, the precision, the understanding of vulnerability. I've never encountered anything like it. Different training produces different results, Bruce replied. What you know has value. What I know has value. Neither invalidates the other. But what happened today was between us, and will remain between us. The coordinator nodded slowly. Agreed. According to multiple sources, the coordinator did begin training with Bruce, twice weekly. For approximately 8 months, Bruce's commitments in Hong Kong made regular sessions impossible. The coordinator integrated some techniques into his film work, though he never publicly acknowledged their origin. When asked about changes in his choreography style, he attributed them to evolution, to staying current with industry trends. He never discussed the 17 seconds in the private facility. None of the 12 witnesses ever discussed it publicly. 2 worked with Bruce on subsequent projects, but never mentioned that afternoon. The producer moved on to other ventures, maintaining silence. The stunt performers, when their paths crossed with Bruce in professional contexts, were respectful, even deferential. But none spoke of what they'd seen. The coordinator passed away in 1991. His obituaries celebrated his contributions to action cinema, his mentorship of younger performers, and his professionalism. No mention of Bruce Lee. No mention of private demonstrations. No mention of 17 seconds that challenged everything he'd believed about size, strength, and combat. Silence, in certain contexts, communicates more than words ever could. 12 people witnessed something that violated their understanding of physical confrontation. They watched a fundamental principle: size determines outcome, proven incorrect in real time. They saw a 215-pound veteran neutralized by a man 8 inches shorter and 80 pounds lighter through nothing but precision targeting of anatomical vulnerability. And they collectively chose never to speak of it. Not from shame, not from fear, but from something more complex. The recognition, perhaps, that certain demonstrations transcend explanation. That description of 17 seconds couldn't capture what those 17 seconds meant. That the coordinator's willingness to learn afterward mattered more than his defeat during. What happened in that facility exists now only in memory. Those who were present carry it privately. Some have passed, others remain. None has broken the silence. Not in interviews, not in memoirs, not in casual conversation among colleagues. The story persists only in fragments, rumors in stunt communities, unverified anecdotes passed between martial artists, speculation built on the absence of confirmation. But the 12 witnesses, those who actually saw, maintain their agreement. 17 seconds proved that mass matters less than precision. That reputation matters less than understanding. That established method matters less than biomechanical reality. One man knelt on concrete, unable to breathe, while another stood calmly watching, having demonstrated exactly what he'd claimed he could demonstrate. And everyone present understood that some truths are too complicated for public consumption, too nuanced for sound bites, too private for exploitation. so they kept it private. And perhaps that silence, that deliberate, collective, decades-long silence, says more about what happened than any description could. Because when 12 professionals watch something that shouldn't be possible and choose never to discuss it, the silence itself becomes testimony.